We spend a lot of time on this show dissecting systems. We look at corporate collapses, political scandals, tech failures. But today, we are opening a file that is about the collapse of reality itself.
That is probably the most accurate way to frame it. It's a collapse of a personal and then a group reality.
We are looking at a story that it really dominated the news cycle from 2019 all the way through the final legal proceedings that just wrapped up in 2025. On the surface, it's true crime. It's the Vallow Daybell case.
Right.
But when you actually dig into the source material, and I'm talking about thousands of pages of court transcripts, police affidavits regarding theology and psychological evaluations, it stops being just a crime story.
It really does.
It becomes a case study in how belief can be weaponized to dismantle basic human morality.
It really challenges the assumption that crazy people are disorganized. What we see here is a delusion that was highly organized, bureaucratic even, and ultimately lethal. We are talking about the Doomsday Mom, Lori Vallow Daybell.
That's the name everyone knows.
And the Doomsday Prophet, Chad Daybell.
And while those nicknames are catchy, the wreckage they left behind is just staggering. 5 victims. We have Charles Vallow, Tylee Ryan, J.J. Vallow, Tammy Daybell, and the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux.
It's an incredible body count.
And it spans 2 states, Arizona and Idaho. We have a timeline that stretches over years, and we have an ending that includes multiple life sentences and a death penalty.
And our mission today is to get past the what. Most people, they know the headlines. Kids found in the backyard.
Right, that's the image that sticks.
We want to get to the how. How does a mother who was once described as obsessed with her children get to a place where she believes killing them is a spiritual act of mercy?
Yeah, how does that switch flip?
And how does a seemingly mild-mannered book editor convince a group of people that he can teleport and literally grade their souls?
Okay, so we have a massive stack of sources for this deep dive. We are looking at the Idaho court records from 2023 and 2024, the fresh records from the Arizona trials that concluded in 2025, and specifically the documents that outline their belief system. So let's start at ground zero, before the bodies, before the trials. Who were these people before they became monsters? Let's start with Chad Daybell.
Chad Daybell. If you met him in, say, 2015, you probably would have forgotten him 5 minutes later. He was the definition of unassuming.
Just normal guy.
Totally. Born in Provo, Utah, grew up in Springville. He went to Brigham Young University and got a journalism degree. He was living a very beige life in Rexburg, Idaho.
He wasn't a career criminal. He wasn't violent.
No, not at all. He worked as a copy editor. But he had this other job that provides a really grim bit of foreshadowing. He worked as a cemetery sexton.
Which is a polite way of saying he was a gravedigger.
Exactly. He was digging graves, maintaining the grounds, literally standing knee-deep in death on a daily basis. He even wrote a book about it called 1 Foot in the Grave. But Chad had an internal life that was technicolor compared to his beige exterior. He desperately wanted to be a visionary.
He wanted to be special.
He needed to be. He founded the Spring Creek Book Company to self-publish his own fiction. And he wrote a series of apocalyptic novels, the Standing in Holy Places series.
Okay, I've heard of these.
These were books about the end of the world, specifically focused on how the righteous would survive in these tent cities while society collapsed around them. But here is the crucial pivot point. Chad stopped telling people these were stories.
He started claiming they were documentaries of the future.
Effectively, yes. He claimed he had 2 near-death experiences, or NDEs.
Right.
He said he had crossed the veil between this world and the spirit world, and that these books, his novels, they were actually scenes that were downloaded into his brain.
Downloaded?
That was his word. He told his followers, I'm not creative enough to make this up. This is prophecy.
That's a powerful marketing hook if you're selling to the prepper community.
And it worked. I mean, within that niche, it worked. He became a minor celebrity on the circuit of people preparing for the second coming. But, and this is the friction that drives the crime, the finances didn't match the prophecy.
Oh, that's interesting.
We found tax records in the source material showing that 1 year, his publishing company netted about $2,000.
$2,000 for the whole year.
For the entire year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this massive gap between his self-image, I am a prophet, I am a visionary, and his reality, I am broke, digging graves to feed my family.
That's a huge disconnect.
He was a narcissist starved of supply. He was waiting, just waiting, for someone to look at him and see the god he thought he was.
And enter Lori Vallow, because if Chad is the quiet, unassuming narcissist, Lori is the loud one.
Laura brings the glamour. Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
She was a hairdresser, a former beauty queen. She competed in the Mrs. Texas pageant. She even had a stint on Wheel of Fortune back in 2004.
I remember seeing clips of that.
She was charismatic, high energy, very attractive, but her personal life was a disaster zone.
She had a lot of turmoil in her rearview mirror.
By the time she meets Chad, she's been married 4 times.
4 times.
5 times eventually, but 4 at that point. Her relationships were characterized by high conflict, custody battles, just constant drama. Specifically, her relationship with her 3rd husband, Joseph Ryan, who was Tylee's father. It was incredibly volatile.
Okay.
But by 2015, Lori is drifting. She's checking out of mainstream life.
What does that look like for her? What is she doing?
She starts diving into fringe beliefs. She's reading Chad's books obsessively. She's listening to podcasts featuring excommunicated Mormons or people on the absolute edge of LDS theology. She was looking for answers that the mainstream church wasn't giving her. She was primed for radicalization.
So she's a fangirl. She's already bought into his world before she even meets him.
She is a devotee in search of a guru. And that meeting finally happens in October 2018 at a Preparing a People conference in St. George, Utah.
Preparing a people? I mean, that sounds ominous in hindsight.
It was a conference series focused on self-reliance and, the end times. Witnesses say that when Chad and Lori met, the energy in the room shifted. It was immediate.
A spark.
It was a lightning strike. And Chad, recognizing the opportunity, played his trump card right away.
The pickup line to end all pickup lines.
He told her, "We have been married in multiple past lives."
Wow.
He told her they were James and Elena, a biblical-level couple. He said they had been sealed together for eternity.
Now, hold on. Let's be clear. Both of them are married to other people at this moment. Chad has Tammy. Lori has Charles Vallow.
Correct. Both are very much married. But Chad gave her a theological workaround. He validated her. He looked at this woman who felt chaotic and persecuted, and he said, "You aren't a mess. You are a goddess. You are a translated being."
Let's unpack that term, translated being, because in this case, it's not just religious jargon, it's a license to kill. What did they think that meant?
Right. So in mainstream LDS theology, translation is a very, very rare event. Think of the prophet Elijah being taken up to heaven without dying. It's about extreme holiness.
Okay.
Chad twisted this. He told Lori she was already translated. This meant she was physically distinct from normal humans. She didn't need to sleep, though she did. She didn't need to eat, though she did. But most importantly, as a translated being, she was no longer subject to earthly laws.
So, traffic laws, tax laws, murder laws.
Exactly. If you are a god, you don't commit crimes, you fulfill destinies. This is where we get into what experts call Mormon fanfic.
Right.
They took the source code of the religion revelate spirits, the gathering of Israel, and they hacked it to remove all the ethical safety rails.
They also introduced this idea of multiple probations or reincarnation, which is definitely not mainstream Mormonism.
No, the LDS Church does not teach reincarnation. Not at all. But Chad claimed he had lived 31 past lives. He told Lori she had lived 21. This was crucial because it severed their ties to their current families.
It makes them disposable.
It makes them disposable.
Right.
If you believe you've had 31 families, your current wife, Tammy, is just temporary. She's just a character in this specific chapter. It devalues the people around them to an extreme degree.
And to formalize that devaluation, they created a rating system. The light and dark scale. I was looking at the police documents, and it looks like a spreadsheet. It's so bureaucratic.
It is the banality of evil in a literal list. They assigned a score to everyone they knew. You were either light or dark, and they had a vibration scale. If you were light, you had high vibrations. Chad claimed that people with high vibrations could do miraculous things.
Such as?
He told Lori he could create portals.
Portals, like
Yeah.
sci-fi teleportation.
Spiritual portals.
Mm.
He claimed he could open a portal in his closet or in a tent and travel spiritually to visit Lori in Arizona. It sounds like a role-playing game, almost like Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
But the consequences were real. Because if you can be light, you can also be dark.
And this brings us to the zombie doctrine. This is the mechanism of the murders. Explain how you go from, that person is dark, to, I need to bury them in the backyard.
This is the psychological pivot. This is everything. They believe that a person could be light, but then a dark spirit, a demon, could come in and push their soul out.
So the person's soul is gone.
It's gone. The original soul gets trapped in limbo. The body that is left walking around, talking, eating, it's now a zombie.
So the person you loved is effectively gone.
In their minds, yes. If they decided Charles Vallow was a zombie, they believed the real Charles was already floating in the ether, trapped. The body sitting at the dinner table was just a meat suit, inhabited by a demon.
And the solution.
The only way to free the original soul from limbo was to kill the body.
My God.
So murder wasn't murder. It was a rescue mission. It was an act of mercy. They convinced themselves they were doing these people a favor by killing them. This belief system is what allowed a mother to kill her children without breaking down. She told herself she wasn't killing Tylee. She was destroying a zombie to save Tylee.
It's a terrifyingly perfect closed loop. You can't argue with it because it relies on invisible evidence. And the first person to get caught in this machinery was Charles Vallow.
Charles Vallow is the tragic hero of the first act. He figured it out. In early 2019, he realized his wife had lost her mind.
He knew something was deeply wrong.
Well, he knew. He filed for divorce in February, and the court documents are chilling. He didn't just cite irreconcilable differences. He told the judge point blank, "She threatens to murder me. She calls herself a god. She says if I get in her way, she will destroy me with her powers."
And she gave his demon a name.
She did. She told her inner circle, and Chad, of course, that Charles was possessed by a spirit named Ned Schneider.
Ned Schneider.
Sometimes she called it Hiplos.
Yeah.
Sounds ridiculous, being possessed by a guy named Ned, but it's a death sentence.
Now, you'd think if a man goes to court and says, "My wife thinks I'm a zombie and wants to kill me," the system would intervene.
You would hope. But the system viewed it as domestic hyperbole. They thought, oh, it's a messy divorce. People say crazy things. Charles even went to the police. There is body cam footage of him pleading with officers saying, "She has lost reality. I am in danger." And they just took a report.
Unbelievable. There was also a financial motive here, right? It wasn't just about Ned Schneider.
It never is just about the spirits. There was a $1 million life insurance policy on Charles. Lori and Chad were broke. They needed that money to fund their gathering of the $144,000 in Hawaii.
But Charles, realizing he was being targeted, did something smart.
He did. He changed the beneficiary.
He cut Lori out.
Completely. He changed it to his sister, Kay Woodcock.
Ooh.
But he didn't tell Lori. So she was plotting a murder for a payout that didn't exist anymore.
That brings us to July 11th, 2019. Chandler, Arizona. The escalation hits the breaking point.
Charles goes to Lori's rental house to pick up their son, JJ, for school. JJ is 7 years old, he has autism, and Charles was his primary stability. Inside the house, waiting for him, are Lori, the kids, and Lori's brother, Alex Cox.
We need to talk about Alex Cox. He appears in every single crime scene. He's the muscle.
He is the weapon. Alex Cox was Lori's brother, but he was also a fervent believer in Chad's cult. He believed he was an avenging angel. He had taken oaths to protect his sister. If Lori said Charles is a zombie, Alex didn't ask why. He asked where.
So Charles enters the house. What happens?
The official story Alex told police was self-defense. He claimed Charles got violent and hit him in the head with a baseball bat, so Alex shot him to protect the family.
Okay, that's the story.
But the forensics tell a completely different story. Charles was shot twice in the chest. The angle of the second shot suggests he was likely already on the ground.
It was an execution.
It looks that way. And Lori's behavior in the aftermath is what really destroys the self-defense theory for me. Charles is dead on the floor. Did she call 911? No. She waited.
She waited 45 minutes.
Roughly. And in that time, she took JJ to the car. She drove him to Burger King to get him food. And then, and this is the detail that sticks in my throat, she went to Walgreens to buy flip-flops.
Flip-flops. While her husband is bleeding out on the rug.
While her husband is dead. She's browsing for beachwear. When the police finally arrived and interviewed her, the detective noted she was chirpy. She was nonchalant.
Wow.
She was acting like she was dealing with a minor traffic ticket, not a homicide in her living room.
But because Alex had the injury on his head, which, you know, may have been self-inflicted or staged, and because Charles was dead and couldn't testify, they weren't arrested.
They walked. And this was the signal. The safety rails were gone. Charles was the only one holding Lori to reality. With him gone, the Doomsday timeline accelerated.
Right.
Lori, Alex, and the kids, Tylee and JJ, immediately pack up and move to Rexburg, Idaho.
Why Rexburg? It seems random.
It was Chad's territory. He had received a revelation that the gathering of the righteous would happen there. But before they left Arizona, there was a detail regarding JJ that is just heartbreaking.
The service dog.
JJ had a service dog named Bailey. For a child with autism, that dog is a lifeline. It's their emotional regulator. Before moving to Idaho, Lori sold the dog back to the trainer for $2,500.
That's a liquidation. That's not something a parent does.
Exactly. You don't sell the service dog if you are planning to continue parenting that child. You sell the dog if you are clearing the decks. It was a clear signal that she was done being a mother.
So they arrive in Rexburg in late August 2019, and this is when the clock starts ticking for the kids. Let's talk about Tylee Ryan first. She was 16.
Kylie was a smart kid. By all accounts, she was witty, a bit cynical, and very protective of her little brother. But she was also a problem for Lori.
How so?
She was questioning the beliefs. She knew her father, Joseph Ryan, was dead. She knew Charles was dead. She wasn't buying into the whole goddess thing. She was a liability.
When was she last seen?
September 8th, 2019. Lori, Alex, Tylee, and JJ took a trip to Yellowstone National Park. There was a photo from that day. It's haunting. It shows Tylee holding JJ and Alex standing right there. It's the last proof of life we have.
And after that trip?
She vanishes. But Lori tries to keep her digitally alive. This is part of the modern cover-up. Money was Venmo'd from Tylee's account to her older brother Colby, who wasn't in the cult.
Oh, wow.
The messages said things like, "Love you, I'm safe, I'm busy at school."
But she wasn't at school.
She wasn't even enrolled. Lori told people she was at BYU, Idaho. It was a lie. The digital masquerade bought them time.
And then JJ goes missing.
JJ survived a few weeks longer. He was last seen on September 22. Alex Cox was seen carrying him upstairs, asleep on his shoulder. The next morning, Lori tells her friends, Melanie Gibb and David Warwick, who were staying with her, that JJ had been acting like a zombie.
There is that word again.
She said he was climbing the cabinets, knocking over pictures of Jesus, acting possessed. And then she said very calmly, Alex came and took him.
And Melanie Gibb? She didn't call the police. What did she do?
That is the power of the cult dynamic. She was afraid. She had been told that questioning the chosen ones would lead to her own destruction. She suspected something was wrong, but she didn't act immediately. It took time.
So by October 2019, the obstacles are disappearing. Charles is dead. Tylee is dead. JJ is dead. But Chad is still married to Tammy Daybell.
And this is where the cold-blooded nature of Chad Daybell really reveals itself. He had been laying the groundwork for Tammy's death for months. He was telling his neighbors, I had a vision Tammy is going to die young. He's not going to make it to 50.
He was pre-selling it.
He was pre-selling her death to the community so that when it happened, it would look like prophecy, not murder.
There was a dry run, right? The driveway incident.
October 9, 2019. Tammy comes home from grocery shopping. She gets out of her car, and a masked man steps out of the shadows and points a gun at her. She hears a click. The gun jams. She screams for Chad. The man runs away. Tammy, being a normal, decent person, thought it was a prankster with a paintball gun. She even posted about it on Facebook saying how scary it was.
She had no idea.
No idea. But prosecutors later proved, using phone data, that Alex Cox was in the area. It was an assassination attempt with a jammed rifle.
But Tammy didn't realize she was being hunted.
No. She went on with her life for 10 more days.
October 19.
Chad reports that Tammy went to sleep with a cough and never woke up.
A healthy 49-year-old woman who was training for a 5K race just dies in her sleep.
It's highly suspicious. But in rural Idaho, if the spouse says she was sick and there are no obvious stab wounds and the family declines an autopsy...
The coroner signs the certificate.
Often, yes. And Chad refused the autopsy. He wanted her buried immediately.
And the money.
He collected $430,000 in life insurance almost immediately.
So Charles is gone. The kids are gone. Tammy is gone. The board is cleared. And they don't waste a second.
This is the part that turns the stomach. 2 weeks later, November 5, 2019, Chad and Lori are on a beach in Kauai, Hawaii, getting married.
2 weeks after his wife's funeral.
And we know this was the plan all along because of the digital footprints. Lori was searching for wedding rings online in August.
While Tammy was still alive?
While Tammy was alive. While the kids were alive. She was buying her wedding dress on the day of Tammy's funeral.
They are in Hawaii, telling everyone they are empty nesters, no kids, just a happy couple waiting for the end of the world.
They erased everyone who mattered to them. They were living in a paradise built on a graveyard. But they forgot one thing. Kay Woodcock.
JJ's grandmother.
Kay is the hero of this story. She hadn't heard from JJ in months. She wasn't buying the excuses. She called the Rexburg police in November and demanded a welfare check.
So the police knock on the door.
And Lori lies. She opens the door and says, oh, JJ is back in Arizona with a friend. She's calm. She thinks she can charm her way out of it. But the police check. They call the friend. The friend says, I haven't seen JJ in months.
And the house of cards starts to wobble.
The police return the next day with a search warrant. But the house is empty. Chad and Lori have fled back to Hawaii. But before they left, surveillance cameras caught them visiting a storage unit.
The storage unit is such a key piece of evidence. It's so cold.
It is. Inside that unit, they found the kids' lives. JJ's toys, Tylee's photos, bikes, scooters. They didn't throw these things away, they archived them. It creates this haunting image. The plastic artifacts of childhood sitting in a cold storage locker, while the children themselves are decomposing in the dirt.
Before we get to the grim discovery, we have another body drop, Alex Cox.
December 2019. The avenging angel dies in his bathroom in Arizona. The autopsy said natural causes blood clots in the lungs. But the timing is incredibly convenient for Chad and Lori.
It ties up the loose end, the only witness.
Exactly. Just days before he died, Chad gave him a patriarchal blessing, calling him a hero who had fulfilled his mission. But Alex told his wife, "I think I'm going to be the fall guy." He knew the walls were closing in.
With Alex dead, the police turned to technology. They track Alex's phone GPS data from the days the children disappeared, and that data points to one location.
Chad Daybell's backyard, specifically a pet cemetery and a fire pit.
June 9, 2020, the search warrant is executed.
This is the moment the fantasy collided with forensic reality. The police start digging. They find Tylee first, but it wasn't a body in the traditional sense.
It was destruction.
It was total annihilation. Tylee had been dismembered with a pickaxe. She had been burned. Her remains were a mass of charred tissue and bone, buried in a green melt-resistant bucket. It showed a level of rage and dehumanization that shocked even veteran investigators.
And JJ?
JJ was found in a different spot, under a tree. He was wrapped in tight plastic and duct tape. He was still wearing his red pajamas. He was buried under layers of rocks and wood.
Why the difference? Why burn one and bury the other?
It gives us a window into their psychosis. Tylee was a darker spirit in their eyes. She was defiant. She was an adult, nearly. The rage directed at her body reflects that. JJ was viewed more as a possessed innocent. His disposal was cleaner, more ritualistic, but both were treated as garbage.
While the police are digging up these bodies, Chad is sitting in his car across the street watching.
And he makes a phone call. He calls Larry, who is already in jail on lesser charges at this point. He says, very calmly, they are searching the property. And then he tries to drive away. But the police swarm him. The prophet is in handcuffs.
That brings us to the trials. And this is where we see the legal system try to process this insanity. The trials were split. Lori went first in Idaho in 2023.
Lori's trial was surreal because she refused to participate in her own defense in a meaningful way. Her lawyers tried to argue that she was a victim of Chad's manipulation. The cult leader controlled me defense.
Did the jury buy it?
Not for a second. The evidence shows she was a co-conspirator, not a passenger. The texts, the zombie talk, the rings. She was an architect of the plan. She was found guilty on all counts. But the most shocking moment came at her sentencing.
This is the speech that made headlines.
Lori stood up. She wasn't crying. She wasn't apologetic. She looked at the judge and said, "I have no regrets." She claimed she had visited heaven. She said she talks to Jesus regularly. And she said, "My children are happy and busy in the spirit world."
Happy and busy.
She denied that a murder even occurred. She called them accidental deaths, implying that their spirits just decided to leave their bodies. It showed a complete break from reality. She wasn't lying to save herself. She believed her own lie. She was sentenced to life without parole.
Then came Chad's turn in 2024.
Chad's defense was the mirror image. They tried to blame Lori and Alex. They painted Chad as this goofy, sex-starved author who was lured into a web of crime by a femme fatale.
The devil made me do it, and the devil was Lori.
Exactly. But the prosecution dismantled that. They showed that Chad was the one who invented the light-dark scale. He was the one who identified the zombies. He was the one who collected the insurance money.
And the jury saw through him, too.
Guilty. And unlike Lori, Chad got the death penalty. The judge cited the depravity of the crimes and the profit motive.
So Idaho's done, but the story has one final, bizarre chapter, the Arizona trials in 2025. Lori was extradited to face charges for Charles Vallow and Brandon Boudreaux, and she made a choice that turned the courtroom into a circus.
She decided to represent herself, pro se. A woman who believes she is a goddess acting as her own attorney.
How does that even work?
It was a disaster. In the Charles Vallow trial, her opening statement was just odd. She kept repeating the phrase, "the evidence will show," over 70 times. It was like she was mimicking a lawyer she saw on TV.
Did she cross-examine witnesses?
She did. And it was excruciating. She aggressively cross-examined a woman Charles had dated during their separation. She was asking these wildly inappropriate questions about their relationship. It felt like she was litigating her jealousy, not her murder charge.
And the verdict.
Guilty of conspiracy to murder Charles.
Then came the final trial, the attempt on Brandon Boudreaux. This was May and June of 2025.
This was the wheelchair phase. Lori delayed jury selection by claiming she was frail and ill. She rolled into court in a wheelchair, slumped over, claiming she couldn't focus. But the medical exam showed she was perfectly fine.
It was a performance.
It was manipulation. When that didn't work, she tried to argue that the shooting didn't happen, that it was a hallucination or fabrication. She compared herself to Jesus and Abel. She claimed she was being persecuted for her righteousness.
The jury didn't take long.
Less than 30 minutes. That is lightning fast in the legal world. Guilty. At the sentencing in July 2025, the judge gave her 2 additional life sentences. He remarked that she showed a blatant disregard for humanity.
So here we are in 2026. The dust has settled. Chad is on death row. Lori is serving multiple life sentences. Alex is dead.
The threats are neutralized. But the question remains, why?
We talked about the theology. But when you strip away the zombies and the portals, what is underneath? What's the real driver?
It's the oldest motive in the book. Sex, money, and power.
Let's connect the dots.
Sex. Chad and Lori were obsessed with each other, but their religious narcissism wouldn't allow them to just get divorced and look like failures.
Yeah.
So they had to eliminate the spouses to maintain their purity.
Money.
They were broke. They killed Charles for insurance. They killed Tammy for insurance. And this is key. After they killed the kids, Lori kept collecting their Social Security survivor benefits. She was stealing from her dead children to pay for her life in Hawaii.
And power.
The power to decide who lives and who dies. The power to look at a person and say, you are dark, and have them erased. That is the ultimate God complex. The theology wasn't the cause. It was the tool. It was the excuse they built to get what they wanted.
I want to leave the listeners with a thought that really haunts me. Lori gave an interview just last year, in 2025.
I read it. It's chilling.
She is sitting in a maximum security prison. She will never walk free. And yet, she is smiling. She says she is waiting on the Lord. She believes she will be exonerated by angels and released.
That is the terrifying permanence of the delusion. She doesn't see herself as a monster. She sees herself as a goddess in a waiting room. She has totally insulated herself from the horror of what she did. And that disconnect, that ability to look at a dead child and see a zombie, is a warning about what happens when we let belief override our basic humanity.
A goddess in a cell, waiting for an apocalypse that already happened to her family. That is the legacy of the Vallow Daybell case. Thank you for listening to this deep dive.
Stay safe and keep questioning.
We'll see you next time.